Hey guys, this is Jay, and today I want to talk to you about fear. And I've touched briefly on fear and bravery in a previous video about the mortar attack, but I decided to go a little bit deeper into it today and tell you a story that happened to me while I was in basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky. And ever since I was a little kid, I have had a near crippling fear of heights. I absolutely despise heights. It's gotten to the point where, like, I'm 6'5", and if I'm standing on something that's 3 or 4 feet above the ground, that makes my head about 10 feet above the ground, and it terrifies me to look down. And it's not a great thing to try and live with. And just to kind of put this in perspective, when I was a wee lad, about 5th grade, my dad was the high school basketball coach at our school, and he would take the team to different away games on our school's only school bus, and he would have my brother and I clean the bus. And one of the things that he would have us do, and we would alternate, it wasn't me all the time, and my dad didn't know this. I'm not trying to claim to have had an abusive childhood. This is something I never told him. But he would have us climb up on top of the bus and sweep it with a big broom. And it terrified me. Like, I wanted to cry the entire time I was up there. And I would get through it because I am not the type of person who likes to disappoint people, but it was horrifying. Like, every step I took was just, is this step going to be the one that I lose my footing and slide off the side of this bus and fall to my death? And, I'd be up there just trembling and shaking at the knees, just horrified of how high above the ground I was. And I was only on top of a school bus. It's not like I was on top of a school bus next to a cliff. But for as long as I can remember, I've been terrified of heights. And in basic training, there's a lot of things that have to do with heights. And basic training is all about overcoming your fears. Basic training is about taking the weaknesses that you have and pushing them to the side and powering through them. That's really, you learn how to read a map and you learn how to, speak phonetically, and you learn how to fire a rifle. But the biggest thing that you learn in basic training is how to overcome your fears. And they intentionally put you in situations where you should be terrified. There's it's all obstacle courses. There's an obstacle course near the end of basic training where they have you low crawl across a field while they're firing live rounds over your head. Like, literally live rounds, and there's explosions going off, and it's simulating a battlefield, and it's intended to scare you. Like, you're supposed to be frightened, and it is frightening, but you have to get through it to pass. And for me, it was the obstacle courses that had me above the ground. There was one in particular where you had to, I can't remember exactly what all the obstacles were. It was like climb a rope, navigate a rope bridge, climb some kind of ladder, and all these different things. And each one was a little bit higher above the ground than the last. And by the end of it, you're about 75 feet above the ground, and you're standing on top of a tower, and you're supposed to rappel down the tower with a harness that you tied yourself. And it was horrifying for me. So I get up all the way up to the top of this tower, which was hard enough by itself. I'm standing there and I clip into this harness, and the drill sergeant tells me to lower myself over the edge to where my feet are on the wall and my body makes an L shape, and I'm just holding on to the rope. And I'm sitting there shaking at the knees, horrified that I'm this high above the ground. I don't trust the rope. I don't trust my harness. And I'm standing there, and I get down into this L shape, and I'm just petrified. I don't want to move ever. And the drill sergeant tells me that I need to bound 3 times on my way down to the ground. And it's, when you bound, is when you jump off the wall, you let yourself down a little bit, and then your feet come back to the wall. That's one bound. We're supposed to bound 3 times down this wall. And it's funny because you would think the thing that's scary about being high is the idea of getting to the ground too fast. Like, it's the fall that's really scary. But in this situation, I was so scared of being high, I couldn't wait to get down to the ground. So I basically jumped off the wall and practically, not literally, but practically just let go of the rope. And I went all the way down, and I made it to the ground in one bound. Like, my feet touched the wall again one time, and it was about 10 feet above the ground. So I navigated nearly the entire wall on one single bound. And finally, I get down to the ground, and I've got tears pouring out of my eyes. I'm terrified. My skin is probably pale white, and I have a lot of Native American blood in me, so I have more brown brownish skinned than most Caucasians, but I'm probably pale white, lightheaded, terrified, tears running down my face because of what just happened, just being that high. And I get down to the ground, and there's another drill sergeant down there, and he starts laying into me about how I didn't go the full 3 bounds. Like, what's your hurry, Speedy, blah, blah, blah. And it ended with him telling me that I have to go back up to the top and do it again. And I'm just thinking, are you serious? I made it. I did it. I did. I overcame my fears, quote unquote. And really, I didn't overcome my fears. What I did was just crash into the ground really fast. But I managed to get to the top, and I went from the top to the bottom. Why do I have to do it again? But they were making me do it again. So I now have to re-navigate this entire obstacle course, going up the rope, up the ladder, up the bridge, everything else, back to the top of this tower, and there I am again with the drill sergeant yelling at me that I did wrong the first time, I need to do it better this time, and I get down in my L shape, and he's like, all right, now 3 bounds, get down there, and this time, I'm so nervous that I'm going to go too fast and have to do it again that I overcompensate, and I bound like 10 times down the wall. I'm practically just slowly walking down the wall at this point. Think Batman, or think like, old school Batman walking up the wall. It's kind of like that, except I'm going down the wall. Of course, when I get down at the bottom, the drill sergeant once again is yelling at me and laying into me, and I once again have dried tears all over my face. I'm freaking out. I'm terrified. And like I said in a previous video, bravery is not the lack of fear. Stupidity is the lack of fear. Bravery is not letting that fear control you. And in this situation, these 2 times I've gone down the wall, I have absolutely let the fear control me. The first time, I was so determined to get the scary situation over with that I let the fear control me to the point that I made it all the way down the wall in 1 bound, which was not the right thing to do. And the second time, I let fear control me to the point that I was bordering on petrified and couldn't move. And so I just very slowly, methodically made my way down the wall. And so they sent me up a 3rd time up this obstacle. It's probably the worst obstacle in basic training for me personally because of my fear of heights. And I'm sitting there at the top of the wall in my L stance. At this point I'm still terrified, but I'm just so focused. Like, I have to do this right or they're going to make me keep doing it. That's the thing you learn about basic training, is if you don't do it right, they'll make you keep doing it. A lot of people complain in basic training and the Army in general about the hurry up and wait situation where it's move, get your stuff, get your gear, get it on, get down formation, blah, 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 blah. And then you march to the obstacle course, and of course you get there like 30 minutes before you're actually supposed to be there, and you just have to sit and wait until it's your turn. And then you get through it, and now you have like an hour just to sit there and wait until it's time to go back. And the reason they do that is just in case somebody like me can't do the obstacle right, they have enough time to continue forcing the person into the obstacle to make sure that they get it right. So there's a lot of people at this obstacle that are sitting down there in formation experiencing the hurry up and wait while I'm up there crying my eyes out from this terrifying heights. But this time I get up there, I get in my L, and I just focus. I don't think about the height. I don't think about how scared I am, and I am determined to make it down this obstacle without feeling the fear, without letting the fear control me. And I managed to do it correctly this time. I bound 3 times. I get down to the ground. I am not rewarded with a pat on the back, good job, from the drill sergeant. It's more like it's about dang time, private. But it was close enough, and I finally get down and I pass that obstacle. It did help though. Like, it's not so much that you overcome your fears and so that you don't feel them anymore. It's more that you prove to yourself that you can do what you need to do while experiencing the fear. And that came to play later in my career when I went to air assault school, and I managed to get through all of the rappelling from air assault school. If you don't know what air assault is, go watch Black Hawk Down. It's the guys that jump out of the helicopter and slide down the rope. When I got through that course, I probably wouldn't have gotten through that my first try if I hadn't had that experience from basic training when I proved to myself and everyone around me that I actually do have what it takes to overcome that fear and not allow that fear to control me. So thanks for listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed the story. Be sure to check out my other There I Was stories, and goodbye.